Welcome to THRS Deep Cuts this week. I'm Andrew.
Tim.
And it's just us two. This time around, we'll probably be seeing a bit of that over the coming future, I reckon, as well. We're not going to be anchoring things now for a little while to come, but we'll see what happens. So if you're new or if you are following us for a while, make sure you are subscribed or following whatever else to all our different platforms. We're on video and audio, streaming services like YouTube and Spotify, etc. Follow all our social media pages to keep up to date with all the stuff we do have going on. There's a whole lot of, once I get back into the groove of things fully for the year, we'll have a lot more going on there. But there's also always polling for our monthly special episodes and other things going on there too. So check it out, get involved, have some fun with us. We're always here for that. If you'd be so kind. Any help you can give us to allow us to do more, check out Patreon. It's a good way to help us out in that regard. We'll have some more merch on the way soon, so more on that to come. And a big thank you while talking about this sort of stuff to our amazing sponsors in Squinting, Screen Printing, Old Colt, and Rockstar Finance. Their details, as well as ours, are in the description of this, wherever you're watching or listening to it. So please do make sure you go and give them a follow as well, just to give them a bit of a thanks for showing us some support here at the show. And they don't spam, I promise. That there's good content on their pages. Don't worry about that. So for this week on the Deep Cuts format, our secondary episode for the weeks that we go into, we're going to be reviewing the latest from Stimpies as well as an old one from them too. Also the latest from El Colosso and the new one from Dragony. We'll have a hot topic in just a second, but for now, how have you been, Tim? It's only been a few days, but how have the last few days treated you?
Pretty good. I've been at the pub all day, so I'm in a good mood.
That's awesome. Anything in particular or just a good day all around?
No, just I was at the Globe watching NBA all day, so I was in pretty good. I'm in a good mood.
Good to see the Nuggets get a win in overtime.
Yeah, actually, they were. I thought they were going to get beat at halftime, and Chris Paul started missing shots, and Jokic started hitting him. So
yeah, the Nuggets are a bit of a roller coaster this year. It's been an up and down ride for those of us that are following the Nuggets. No.
Yeah.
Who do you follow?
I don't follow anyone in particular.
Okay. To be honest. Well, I didn't recall, but yeah.
Yeah.
All right. No, well, for us, yeah, it's been good here. Today, I'm a bit redder than usual because I was out in the sun all day down at Hillsville Sanctuary with Jody and one of the kids. So that was fun. Even got to the point where it got recognised down there. Someone's been watching the show for almost the duration it's been on TV. So fucking
wow.
That was cool. And still watches it. So he walked up and said, just wanted to say, love the show. Cheers for doing the work. I've been watching it. But that was like a really cool, just a fun little random interaction out in Hillsville Sanctuary. So I was like, okay. That was fun. So that was cool. But yeah, aside from that, we got through the working week and been editing and getting back into the groove of things now. So it's all just sort of, okay, the rest period is over from December and Christmas and that now. It's sort of okay. Time to get the ball rolling. This is our second one we've done since the Torture episode. I'm already locking in the next ones and that coming up in the future, which you've been following on our Spotify playlist as well. So there's heaps going on. So now it's just okay, we're back into the swing of things for 2021. So another year, here we go again. Although Jody's planning a big birthday bash for me in April, so we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, all good otherwise. But I guess we should shift onto the hot topic, which is a bit of a different one. This is to do with Marko Hietala announced his resignation very suddenly from Nightwish. A week or so ago now as we do this.
Thereabouts, yeah.
And the general, because the conversation behind the scenes for us on the show seemed to take a bent toward streaming services and things like that and the impact they're having on artists being able to do their art and all that sort of stuff too. So we're just going to try and unpack the statement that he made a little bit because I think it's a bit too simplistic to point at one particular aspect. I think this is a lot of we've been talking about it obviously, but we think it's a lot of things combined to make a decision that's been hard. But what are your sort of thoughts on the whole thing?
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack in it. The thing is like streaming not paying as well is definitely part of it. But it's not the whole story, so to speak. Like it does sound like, because he also talks about, tour promoters squeezing the man as well. And it's like between that and, label revenues being quite low and the very fact that, you know, as he said, he's 55, he's got family, and doing that touring grind, and writing, recording, touring, writing, recording, touring, writing, recording, touring is, you know, as he, you know, had a year to sit home and think about it, like we've all had to, you know, decided that it was time to hang it up.
Yeah.
And maybe do something else, which, I mean, to be fair, a lot of us had that thought over the past year.
Yeah.
That, you know, and we took it as a chance to reset and try something different. And, you know, like I wish Marko all the best. But it does sound like he had a lot going on, and unfortunately, he decided it was time to step away. So, you know, I wish him all the best.
Mm. I think that lockdown, COVID, has probably, in a lot of respects, we're going to see the impact of this for a few years to come yet. Even once the vaccine's done, in the next sort of 12, 24 months, we all start to get back to quote-unquote normal, and we'll do what they did in the 20s. We'll have a roaring 20s repeat and all that sort of shit. I'm sure of all those things. You know, history has a habit of repeating itself. But I think we'll see because we're getting better at understanding and appreciating mental health and the impact of that, I think we're going to see a lot more fallout from this lockdown or whatever. You look at the way that even in Victoria, like being down in Hillsville today, regional Victoria looks at mask wearing very differently than in CBD. Very, very differently.
Oh, yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. It's just an observation. If you're in Melbourne during lockdown, you have a different point of view on this whole bloody thing. But again, if you're in Italy or America or UK right now, your view is very different to ours down here in Melbourne again. And the way that's going to be processed by each individual over the next few years and probably longer to come, because I think the actual trauma has been underestimated for mine. So I think that's part of it.
I'm still finding myself going to the shops when there's no one there.
Well, even like
just because it's like, it's like, what the fuck is all these people doing here?
Yeah, it doesn't feel normal, does it?
No, it doesn't.
We went to Hillsville, and there are certain parts of the zoo you're supposed to, you know, wear your mask in and stuff. And like I said, they're a bit more relaxed in regional Vic, and so not everyone was wearing a mask. And we were sitting there going, "Fuck this! We're putting on a mask," and it's just like, fuck. And the tension you feel when you're following the rules and doing the right thing, and then someone doesn't. Now, it doesn't. I'm not trying to belittle or berate anyone in that context. It's just interesting, the psychological differences. Like from everyone's carefree and la-di-da, and we're like, no, like don't do that. We don't trust it to be carefree and la-di-da for us.
Yeah.
I mean, but again, everyone's point of view is very, very different on that, and that's okay too. But that's why I think that there's going to be a lot to play out in that regard. The impact of being locked down at home for an extended period of time, and for the arts losing their income on top of that, that's huge. And so there's going to be a lot to go through in the next few years out of that. So I think that's a big part of it.
Man, I'm gonna.
Yeah.
I can't imagine how after spending a year at home, then going, all right, I'm on the road for 9 months.
Well, how do you even?
Like that's a very daunting task.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine being on the road and touring. You don't know what's got. Every country is different. I mean, you look at the political differences in Australia alone, from state to state.
Yeah.
And how it's being handled.
And I mean, like, I told a friend in Adelaide, like, tentatively, like, I'd love to visit sometime around March. And as March gets closer, I'm just like, I'm really sorry, but I can't do it.
Not feeling it, yeah.
No, just because I don't know what's going to happen in March.
You don't trust that you'll be able to get back home.
Exactly. And it's like, I'll wait until and that's just within Australia.
Yeah, exactly.
I can't imagine. But even now, like, even if you look, like, say, for example, the States, how many people who are touring, be it sports people, entertainers, or whatever, have COVID or have had COVID?
The Australian Open at the moment.
I mean, there was an NBA team that fielded like 8 players out of 15. recently, and like I think Fedor just announced he had it this morning. He's a legendary UFC heavyweight.
Some NFL quarterbacks, like one team, I think it was the Denver Broncos, had to field a receiver at quarterback position, which the NFL is
so which means they got 3 quarterbacks and probably a training quarterback, and all of them got COVID.
Yep. Well, they were in COVID.
And Dave Chappelle announced that this morning.
Mm.
And it's like, I can't imagine going. Yeah, so.
Touring right now, forget it. It's just not.
And especially, and I mean, sort of, again, like you said, 55 years old, he's got a family, wife, some pets. I can totally understand going, you know what?
Too hard.
This is too much work for too little reward.
Yeah. And I don't blame him for that either. I think, like you said, I think just, wish him the best and hope that he, comes back and he doesn't just have a happy life with what you got left of it.
Exactly. I mean, Nightwish have had a very good run. I would love to have this success.
Yeah, exactly. I think we all would. I don't think it's over for them. I think they'll find a way to carry on.
They will.
They're a professional band. They'll do their thing. But at the same time, it'll be interesting to see what they do next. But the other thing I wanted to touch on that was just the notion of, touring. If you read the statement, there's references to touring, people wanting money from them, and merch companies and streaming services. And all those things absolutely have an impact. But what we're finding now is that the need for artists to be much more independent, where you don't need a record label anymore, is becoming more and more apparent, because the pie gets smaller, but there are still just as many hands taking the slice. And the person who gets fucked at the end of that every single time is the artist.
No, it's the same. If you want to help musicians, it's the same as helping all working people.
Mm.
You gotta. At the end of the day, when you're a working person, you're making things working, using brains and muscle to create things.
Yeah.
And as a manager and a middleman taking pieces out of that pie.
Yep.
That's diminishing your income and your the value of what you've produced, and it's the same for all working people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to help musicians, you got to help all working people. It's the same deal, When you help one of us, you help all of us.
It's a socioeconomic issue, not a Spotify or any streaming service is the bad.
It's a much larger issue. It's a systemic issue.
And you go back to COVID, and COVID's highlighted that, especially in Victoria. Casualised work and all that sort of stuff was one of the reasons for So I think what we're seeing now is not so much streaming and that being the bad guy and that direct impact on the artist and their revenue, because at the same time you can still make money from your merch if you organise things correctly and all that sort of stuff. So you can still make money to make a living. I think what we're seeing now is that the general social inequality in wealth diversity is what's coming to play.
It's been exacerbated.
Yeah. And now everyone's really getting to see it in real time, in their face, in every aspect of their life, because either they know someone has been affected by it, or their favourite artists are being affected by it, or so on and so forth. All like TV shows we like have stopped production. Movies have been delayed. Albums delayed. All the arts and stuff have been slowed down, and everyone's income has ground to a halt. So depending on where you live and what sort of support you get from your government, of course. But I think that's what we're seeing more of than anything else. Then I would put it more into that. Just the general socioeconomic impact of what COVID has laid bare for all to see. And then when you sit back and go, fuck this, I don't blame anyone for thinking that.
Yeah.
I think that's a generalistic point of view. And I think this might be a bit of a different take from what the fans of Nightwish will think. And I think it's probably a different take to what a lot of us talking in the group chat were probably saying to each other at the time. But I think you and I are pretty much in agreement on, I think, it's wider issue than just any one thing. And that the last 12 months or so have shown us exactly where society is at when it comes to valuing it.
Exactly. I mean, I feel bad saying this, but like Nightwish are at that level where this would happen.
Yeah,
because they're at the level where they're professional musicians. Like they don't have day jobs.
No,
but at the same time, they're probably not swimming in cash. You know what I mean? Like,
yes, Michael Jackson.
Like I'm sure Metallica are fine.
Yes, they
would. And by the same time, there are plenty of bands who favorite touring bands who are going back to day jobs.
Yeah, exactly.
And those guys again have that day job to fall back on.
Yeah,
hopefully. Whereas Nightwish, their eggs are in this basket, and once this came to a halt, then things are going to get tough.
Yeah.
So again, wish him all the best, but it's unfortunate, but
it is. It's unfortunate. We'll see what happens because there's a lot of dire predictions about seeing a lot more of this in the future, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do because of, I think the main reason.
Again, it's a systemic problem, so we're definitely going to see more of it.
Yeah. Interesting, especially in an election year in Australia.
Well, you got to remember, it was over a decade ago, Dave Lombardo quit Slayer over virtually the exact same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was nasty the way that played out too.
That was nasty, but I mean, he claimed he was making $60,000 a year playing for Slayer.
Yeah, which is fucking insane. That's nuts. There's no way.
So there is the amount of money that band generated
Some very bad contracts have been negotiated along the way, and that's not going to help anyone either.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, look, Dave's having the time of his life now playing for Mr. Bungle and the Misfits and Suicidal Tendencies and all that. And man, hopefully Marko gets the same thing. So, we'll see.
And if he goes into doing his solo albums, well, that's not a bad thing either because his solo album was a fucking ripper. So
exactly. So, yeah, good luck to him.
Yeah. Anyway, we'll get on to some music, will we?
Yep.
All right, so we're going to do something a bit different first off. We're going to talk about a local band to us here in Melbourne, Australia called Stimpies. And we got a hold of this because Cicada Stone, who is a band we have a lot of love for here at the show, one of the guys in the band, it's in this band, Stimpies, it's his son. So there's a bit of a not quite nepotism, but it's sort of who you know is who you know kind of a thing. So because I interviewed Cicada Stone well over a year ago now, probably getting close to 18 months in a year, at their studio. I've got the first CD, which was a self-titled EP, handed to me. Gone, you just check it out, and if you feel like reviewing it, and cool. Never got around to it because shit went pear-shaped. So then the same band, Stimpies, released their second EP, Fleur, which we did. They released that in December 2020, which was supposed to be released in January 2021. So I figured, fuck it. We'll do them both now. So it's a bit different. It's a bit of fun. Something to do that's a bit different. So just for the record here, we're going to do both EPs from this band. So the band is Stimpies. The first EP is self-titled and the second EP is called Fleur. The self-titled track is 5 tracks for 18 minutes, was released in November 2019. The Fleur EP is also 5 tracks, goes for 17 minutes. Like I said, it was released early. Both releases were produced by Matt Robbins at Colosso Studios, who we all know. And this band came to my attention, like I said, through an interview with that band. We never got around to it, so fuck it. We'll do both at the same time, like I was saying before, and we'll just sort of run through them. So, Tim, what did you think of them?
All right, so I've done these a little bit separately. So I'll talk about the first one, which is so my first impression was I actually really liked it because they had this kind of really had a Pixies vibe to it.
Okay, yeah, all right, cool.
And like a Pixies meets kind of like a 80s, surfy skate rock thing.
Yeah.
And with that kind of laid back vibe, but it was but it was at the same time, it was also a very Australian version of it.
Yeah, definitely.
And at the same, and because of that, I actually really found it a very easy listen. It was very laid back, very cool, and to be honest, cool is actually a good word to describe it.
Yeah, that works well, actually. It's perfect for Triple J. This song.
It was a good, but what was that?
Perfect for Triple J.
Exactly. Very good, perfect for Triple J. And I found it a really easy listen. I could spin this a couple times, I put it on, I just let it play, and it was great. It was that kind of, again, very laid-back Pixies kind of vibe. And I really dug it. I gave it 7 out of 10, and Redlines is my favourite.
Nice.
Now, here's my question. How old are these guys?
They're kids. They're still in high school, I think.
Define kids, because there's a big difference here.
Okay.
Like 14, 15 or so?
I think the 15 to 17 kind of bracket is where I think that.
Now, that makes sense.
Okay.
Because the second album, the second EP, is sort of like when they've discovered, like, hey, man, weightlifting's pretty cool. There's a bit more testosterone in this second album.
Yeah, there is.
Second EP.
Yeah.
Same vibe.
Yep.
Same cool vibe. Same Pixies. A little bit more Violent Soho.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
They've discovered the distortion pedal.
Yeah.
He's been raiding his dad's rig.
Yeah. A bit more of the grunge setup came into play.
Yeah, there's a bit more. There's a bit more fire there.
Yeah.
And again, hey, they made it work.
Yep.
And it's the same kind of vibe, but what I'm going to say sounds like an insult, but it's not.
Yeah.
I intend this as a best compliment, but it's angry teenager music.
Well, yeah.
But done very well.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed it. The second one, I'll go 7.5 out of 10. Like, again, because it's a little bit angrier, it's a little bit more up my vibe.
Yep.
And Already Blue is a very, very good song.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, this is like you've been able to rattle off bands that I don't have a lot of knowledge on because it is not what I traditionally listen to. For me, this isn't my traditional wheelhouse, but there's enough rock in this to get my attention pretty quick. There's enough. You got the guitar work and all sort of stuff going into this. This is really, like you were saying, it's easy to listen to. This is almost like, your perfect couple of EPs to put on while you're cruising down the beach somewhere. Or
yeah,
that's the vibe I got from this. Definitely sort of a surf rock kind of thing. That's the heart of it all. And the surf rock can go anywhere. And they tend to, they grew into that on the second EP. The first EP is much more sort of, okay, we're just sort of, you can tell they're finding their feet a little bit.
Yeah.
The second one, they've gone, okay, we got more of an idea of who we are now. They're a bit more in your face lyrically and all that sort of stuff too. The topics being covered are a bit more intense. Like, you had some drug references and things like that in the second one, which you didn't really get on the first one. The first one was when they're sort of, going over.
They weren't nervous about what their parents were going to say.
Well, that's it. And the first one, they're mentioning sleepovers, having pizza and watching Step Brothers on repeat or something like that.
Yeah.
The second one, they're talking about smoking weed. So they've
discovered weightlifting and ice hockey at this point.
Yeah. So it was really cool to get this whole thing going. At the whole thing overall, it's a very shimmery kind of vibe and sound to it. I think Matt has done a bang-up job producing this.
Yeah, you'd hope so.
But at the same time, it's also a bit different for what we've had out of Colour Sound Studio too. That's another sort of string to the bow for Matt as a producer, have a different style that he's nailed sonically for mine. I think the tones are glorious, the production's great, it sparkles in just the right way, but they've got that bit of grunt and grit in there too, which is really cool, especially on the second EP. I like the depth space pan, all this stuff. So the tricks were all used really well. It was just being able to use those things on a different style of music. And my table is rocking because Caesar is just doing whatever it is underneath at the moment. He's a big dog trying to move a little bar table. But for me, the whole thing that I got about from listening to this band is that it's more about the pure joy in playing music for these guys. Yeah. And that's infectious. Like, they're not trying to artificially create anything. They talk about, there's a few things that where if you pay attention to the lyrics, like they're talking about, going back to simpler times when music was real and there was no techno shit and all that sort of stuff. But it's not a, you don't feel like, for a young band, you'd easily think that's contrived. But for these guys, you don't think it's contrived. You think they're sort of echoing what they've been told.
Before that lyric, because again, I was thinking Pixies, but then I was also thinking, like, do these guys know who the Pixies are?
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I mean? Like, and then I get that line. I was like, okay, no, they definitely know.
Yeah,
so it actually felt genuine at that point.
Yeah, exactly. And I think we're seeing now the fruits of a real generation that have grown up with the older guard as their parents, kind of thing. We're seeing those fruits start to come through now. That cyclical effect is starting to kick in a little bit with this generation now. I thought it was really cool. I think the second EP, Fleur, was a bit more refined. It's edgier, a bit more harder, but it's also more refined. Like they found, as I said, that they're chopped a bit more. They are definitely more confident in who they are. They're a bit more attacking in the lyrical content. Either EP though is still a very easy listen, and it's one of those things where it's perfect summer music, absolutely perfect summer music. Both EPs are perfect for summer. That said, if it's winter and you want to cheer yourself up, put this on too, and it'll probably make you feel better pretty quick on the same time. I think these guys have a great future, actually, with this sort of music in this country, this landscape. I think these guys could actually go a pretty long fucking way with what they got going on already. The fun part for me in particular was, one, the rhythm section got better on the second EP, like tighter, and there was more going on in that regard, which makes them have a bigger platform to play with on where they go next, which is really cool. Some of the lead stuff is starting to get a bit more bite in there as well, and the vocals are just doing what they are, and they don't need to be anything over the top. They just need to be genuine, and that's what this whole band does, is to be themselves, be genuine. They write good songs, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with these EPs. Like I said, a bit out of my wheelhouse personally, but I actually enjoyed both of these EPs. The funny little thing was the bonus track at the end of Fleur, after like a minute of silence, that was like they got their inner Chats on. That was good. That was straight out of the Chats playbook. I'm like, where the fuck did that come from? Well, more of that would be really cool.
I don't understand why it was a bonus track, though.
I get it
as well.
Completely. Yeah, it makes sense. Go on. Sorry.
No, go on.
Oh, sorry. It made sense that it was hidden a little bit on the way it was laid out, because it is different to anything else they've done. It's the most aggressive thing they've done by a long way, but at the same time, I'm sitting there going, okay, that was pretty cool. I wouldn't mind hearing more of that. And I wonder what the feedback will be for these guys. Apparently, they sold out their first ever gig by just using social media, word of mouth and stuff. So they know how to use all that sort of stuff. So if they can do that and they, see what they want to play, then hopefully it all goes really well for them. I gave the first EP, the self-titled one, 7.5 out of 10. I picked Back Then and Redlines as my standout on that EP. And for the second EP, like you, it was better for me than the first one, so I gave it an 8 out of 10. And I picked different ones, so I picked Kinghorn and Already Blue as my standouts on that. So even between us, with different tracks that jump out at us, and there's something here for this. Is anyone can listen to this. Anyone can listen to this and get something out of it.
It's a very, very easy listen.
So well done, and we finally got there. So Matt, if you're watching this, hopefully you enjoyed our treatment of that one. Some bit different for us. But no, check it out. Please do check it out. Even though it sounds a bit different for us, typically speaking, it's well worth just have a listen, see what you think. As always, make up your own mind. Don't just take our word for it. Now, this episode has some mighty gear changes in it. We're about to hit the first one of those before we go to the headline acts later on. This is you couldn't get a big this is a big gear change. El Colosso with Forgotten Ancestors is up next. So 7 tracks for 35 minutes. The second album from the Australian band, released December 2020, independently, tracked by Richard Stolz at Woodstock Studios. The vocals and overdubs, though, were completed at home studios after lockdown began, with the mixing being handled by bassist Alex Hayes, including the rest of the band in real-time sessions. It's pretty cool. This was originally due in 2019, in the middle of the year, and was the follow-up to the 2017 Pathways album, which went well on the show. We interviewed him at the time for that as well, and that we enjoyed that one. So I was keen to see how this one would go. So, Tim, what do you think?
As expected, it was awesome.
Are you familiar with the
first? Oh, I wasn't here for the first one.
No, but are you familiar with the band at all? Or
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Yep.
Yeah. If you haven't heard these guys, it's that kind of loose bluesy rock kind of thing, but with a bit of an edge to it. But it's more than that. Like for me, if I'm the big time record producer, El Colosso is a band that I push.
Yeah,
because there are always room for these kinds of bands in the mainstream, but they never quite stay. Whether it's Red Fang or the Black Keys or Gary Clark Jr. or whatever, they've always kind of break through, but they never quite have the staying power. But if it's me, I think El Colosso are better than all of them.
Yep.
And they do have that staying power. Like for me, they would have that staying power just because there's that they can do it all and they do it better. They take the best bits from all those kinds of bands and they do it just as well, but then they don't have the weaknesses either.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they've got the ballads, they've got the aggressive stuff, they've got the straight out, that straight out of Robert Johnson stuff, and they put it all together in a wonderful pot and made a great, rock and roll album.
Yep.
So really, I have no idea how these guys aren't bigger. I have some idea. It's Australia. It's a handicap. But fuck me, these guys are good. Bystanders. Yeah, Bystanders is my highlight. A 9.5 out of 10. It's awesome. Cracking album.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking good. I will agree with everything you just said. I enjoyed the last album, Pathways, a lot. This is a step up from that. I actually went back and listened to the Pathways album again while listening to this one, and they're both great, but this one just feels a little bit sharper. The first thing I got to mention is the mix. Fucking well done. They've got the Sonic like a doom or stoner rock kind of band. They're not that kind of ultimately. I haven't gone too hard of it either. So like a rock feel in this too. The layering was amazing. Well, how they did this for virtual sessions where they're sitting there mixing it by probably something like what we're doing now. Fuck me dead. To get this mix doing those sessions is pretty goddamn impressive. There's a lot going on.
Unbelievable.
There is a lot going on when you listen to this. Heaps. I loved it. I think the tone was fantastic. So, between the actual tracking and then how they went top to bottom, sounds phenomenal. I love it. I think this thing is one of those ones where it's driven by the rhythm a lot. It just sort of pulses along this sort of stuff. The vocals are a little bit behind the guitar, which is, adds that bit of a sound wall and gives me that sort of a doom/stoner rock kind of feel to it as well. But like I said, composition-wise, they don't quite fall into that category either. They're like an octopus. They've got their fucking tentacles in so many different things and then put it all into this one pot and away you go. And they aren't quite like any other band. They all take bits and pieces from all these things. And like you said, none of the weaknesses, play to their strengths and fucking smoke it. They've got so much going on. Like I said, the riffs and the rhythm are the things that really drive this thing, but the lyrics are fantastic as well. The content lyrically was so intelligent and so well done. They mentioned in the little blurb for this on their Bandcamp page that it was all written before lockdown kicked in. But the way it turned out was that the lyrics ended up being prophetic because of the way things were feeling and playing out while lockdown was happening. So it's one of those things where it's just, they just seem to have timed it right in terms of when you would have this album come out. In terms of being in Australia, that sucks. If they were in Europe, I think they'd smoke it. I think if this was Europe, they would be huge. I loved the flow, the dynamics of this thing. I liked how it wasn't a concept album, but there were themes of things like anger, frustration, rebellion. That's what they mentioned on their little bio, and they've done a good job presenting it. But the feel and the groove they play with on this, phenomenal. Like they know just when to open it up. This would be phenomenal to watch this album played live. It'd be phenomenal to watch it played live. But then at the same time, we haven't mentioned the lead guitar up until now, but when the lead does kick in, it's not the most heavily used part of the band. When they do kick it in, smoked it. Like the talent on display in this band across every single member of this band plays their part so well. What I really liked about this one too is how when there was a lead guitar, because it's a 4-piece with a pure vocalist, you didn't have a dubbed-in rhythm track. They just kept the bass and then played the lead. And that opened things up even more. It was a really cool trick to not fall into everyone does a rhythm track, so let's do a rhythm track. They didn't do it with this one. They just did the bass track and the lead guitar, and away you went. So I thought, fucking well done for that. Look, I think this is great. If you want something that flirts with a whole bunch of different genres, like there's a part in here where Down to the Stars, that's almost a metal song in parts for that. It's almost a flat metal song. Like they got so much going on. There's a bit of everything in this whole thing. It's fantastic to listen to. I think it's fucking well done. I think it's great. 9 out of 10 from me. If this was if we actually got around to this last year, probably would have made it into the top 10s.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Down to the Stars, Bystanders Like You, and also Too Many Times one of my standouts on this release. Fucking well done. I look forward to much more from this band too, hopefully. And they're great guys. If you get a chance to see them live and then have a chat with them, they're fantastic. Fucking lovely to hang out with. Okay, we did talk. We do some of these episodes where the gear changes are dramatic, and we are about to have one of those. I don't know how else to put it. This is Dragony with Viribus Unitas, and I should, for the record, make sure that everyone knows that this is the main event of the evening. So just for the record, for posterity there. So this band, the reason why for it being the main event of the evening is they've got a few albums out. So this is 12 tracks for 49 minutes. It's the fourth studio album from the Austrian band. Released January 21 via Napalm Records, mixed and mastered by Sebastian Sieb Lieberman at Greenhouse Studios in Germany. This album apparently sees the band return more to their rock opera kind of roots. There's a concept album about the history of Austria, focusing on the Habsburg monarchy, but in an alternate timeline. So the reason why I picked it, because I do all the picking of what goes on, unless you guys in the crew just sort of let me know if there's anything particular you want to review. I picked this one because their Spotify listens were the same as what we had last episode with Bloody Hammers. So they're on par with each other when it comes to how many people are listening to them. So, okay, well, out of all the other releases we got going on for the week, it's like, okay, well, they've got the highest listener rate. Let's see what everyone's listening to. So with that said, over to you.
All right, so I actually got a little taste of this band.
Okay. I'd never heard of it.
When we were reviewing the last episode, because I was an idiot and I left my Spotify on shuffle.
Oh, okay.
So I played a track and I went to Dragony. So I knew I was in for ridiculous going into this, right? So and then I didn't have a surprise going into it. So then I put on this track and I did the opening track, and it's that classical piece.
Blue Danube, yeah.
Yeah.
Danube Waltz.
You all know it once you listen to it. And honestly, I loved it.
That's a great intro.
Pardon?
It's a great piece of music.
As an intro to this kind of album, I think it's perfect. I hope they do it live. And while this is playing, again, because I'd heard it before and I knew it was coming. I heard like one or half a track before. I knew it was coming. Yep. So I'm like, okay, check out their Facebook page. You know, I see they call themselves Glory Metal. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, that's kind of funny. I'm into that. And then I see the cover. It's like the album cover, and it's got like there's Nikola Tesla like shooting electricity out of his hands, and there's a guy. I think somebody I'm assuming is Bloody Mary on the far left. Yeah, it's I don't know who the guy in the middle is, but then there's Tsar Nicholas II at the back being like the overlord. It's and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm cool. I'm into this.
Well, and then the first talks about Franz Ferdinand being assassinated in the album and stuff too. So there's a bit going on.
And then the first album track kicks in.
Yep,
and it's pretty good.
Yep, the first one,
honestly, and as a thing went obviously there's a theme. There's a lot of classical influences here. It's very much composition based power metal.
Yep.
It's not like it's very much. It's not so much about chops, although there is a lot of chops because it's inevitable.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But it is more about riffs, melodies, rise and fall, tension and release, those kinds of things. Yep. And if that's what you're into, and if that's what you're looking for, and if that's what you're prepared to listen to, if I didn't know who this band was, or if I didn't have that little tasty taste the first time. Yeah. I would have hated this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Especially coming after El Colosso, this would have just been like, what is this kind of? But if you're in the mood, if you like this type of music, then run with it.
Yeah.
But if you're like me and you need a little introduction first, and then by all means, it's safe to proceed.
If you need some puffing, the first two tracks will get you there.
Exactly. And it's very, at the end of the day, what you've got is a very well-written, well-put-together piece of music. It's very well performed. Yep. Every note is very meticulously thought out, planned out, and they know exactly where they're going, what they're trying to achieve, and then they went out to achieve it. It's a very, very well-made record. 8 out of 10. And Gods of War is my highlight.
Cool. Yeah, the attention to detail you mentioned is the standard element on this one. When it comes to and the writing too, like lyrically in that, the theme being executed, I think the lyrics for mine were one of the highlights along with the attention to detail. Because the storytelling was good. It was all very well crafted. They did the narrative, this, if you know your history a little bit of the region, then they played it well, the timeline. They go a bit outside of the bright side, the rock opera thing kicks in, they get a bit ridiculous with it, which is cool too. There's nothing wrong with it, especially for the genre music. I think this is one of those ones that's very theatrical. Opening with the Blue Diddy Waltz or an excerpt from that is very clever, but it does set the tone very much what you're going through. And I didn't know they described themselves as glory metal. I didn't know that until you mentioned it.
It makes it a little better though, doesn't it?
That's apt. It's better than power metal for these guys. Glory metal, that makes more sense. It's got that power metal meets rock opera kind of stuff going on. So it's there's a I don't even know what I'm thinking of, but there's a lot of that. The power metal band.
Bobby Roode metal.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to put it. Look, I think this is one of those records you can't just put on as a casual listen. I don't think you'll appreciate it. You need to actually dig into this one a bit to get your head around it. I think the production was pretty good. It was well balanced overall. I just felt the whole thing was a little bit, because they were being so meticulous, it didn't have that raw life to it. Kind of.
It was a little mechanical.
Yeah, and I'm not a fan of clinical production like that. I like a bit of feel to it. I get it. It makes sense. I'm not critiqued. Like, the actual execution was good. It's just that I personally, I like a bit more feel. I don't like to be so sterile. And this has one of those sterile mixes that makes it harder for me to enjoy it. But yeah, like you were saying, the composition, if you like this genre, this is going to have more than enough in this to please you. Live, it'll be fucking interesting to watch it. I reckon they'd be very good live as well. Performances are all very, very good. They've got the bit of cheese in there too, like tongue-in-cheek, a bit of cheese. Like I said, they went a bit over the top with it, and that's expected and good.
No, if you love cheese,
yeah, there's heaps.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're like, and I mean, I like cheese.
Yeah, we all like still.
This is the right kind of cheese.
Yeah, for this type of music,
like it's very well done cheese.
Yeah, like when you've got tracks in here like featuring someone, then you got Subpunk Joseph, Battle Royale, Gods of War, Love You to Death. There's all these things in this, and if you start going through the little content, because it starts off with this alternate timeline coming about from Franz Ferdinand being executed, you're going to go to a different town of what actually happened in our timeline anyway, then it becomes an interesting listen in all that sort of stuff. The downside for me is that, like, when it comes to this sort of music, there is a lot of this kind of genre out there. And this is my taste talking, and I know that a lot of people love this stuff, and great, because if you love this genre, this is going to do more. This will make you very, very happy very, very quickly. If you're like Tim originally, and if you don't have any idea what you're in for and it's not your style, you're probably going to be put off by it pretty quick. If you like me and you're a little more middle of the road and you listen to a lot of this sort of stuff, but it hasn't quite grabbed you as an overall genre kind of thing, this album I don't think is going to be the one that changes your mind, either good or bad. It's an album that's well done, it's well executed, all those things are good. But if I want the sort of stuff, there's a handful of other bands that are going to be first off the rank to listen to before this album. Not that there's anything wrong with this, but it's just there's nothing that makes it stand out either.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
The opening real track, Gods of War, that is the highlight track on this record.
That's a cracker. That is an absolute cracker.
That is and fucking way to open that 1-2 first two.
They knocked that opening out of the park.
Yeah. That opening is fucking bang on.
Like, if you're 50-50 on listening to this, those opening two tracks by the band. Yeah. No, but they buy the band an extra 20 minutes of listening.
Exactly. They do.
Like, where you would have turned off at track 3, you're now turning off at track 8.
Exactly.
And I mean, yeah.
I think I made a note here though. By the time you get to Legends Never Die, the second last track, you might feel like you've jumped the shark though.
It is. I'm looking at it now. There's a lot of tracks on here.
Yeah, there's a fair bit going on, and it makes the thing feel longer than it actually is, which is unfortunate. because it's a very well done record. It is actually very, very good. It's just that it's a good record, not an outstanding one, and it doesn't make it. At the end of the year, I don't know how much I'll remember this, but the Gods of War track I will remember, but the rest of it, don't know. I don't have anything that sort of pops in my head. Like, we listened to Bloody Hammer's last episode, and as I'm sitting there looking at the titles, I can hear the chorus. It's coming.
Yeah.
This one doesn't have that effect. Gods of War, yeah. The rest, it sort of fades away, which is a shame because it's very well done. It is very well done. If you are into this genre, this will make you more than happy. I just don't think that if you are not into it or you're a passing listener, it's going to be anything that makes you really want to get more into it. I think it's a good record, well worth checking out, but depending on your taste, where you sit with it. So for me, I go to 7 out of 10. Still a good score. Nothing wrong with it, like I said. I can't give it a raving review because I think there are some pitfalls overall, but it's still very, very good. So 7 out of 10. Gods of War, Darkness Within, and Magic were my standouts. But that being said, I've only picked a few on this one. This is really cool. Whereas on El Colosso, I'm like fucking bang, bang, bang. You know what I mean? So it's a different sort of feel entirely. But it is what it is in that regard. It's all a bit of fun. And let us know out there your thoughts on this one in particular. If you're a fan of this band, because I haven't checked out any of their music before this until we've sat down and do this one today.
Yeah, neither.
So let us know how and why you got into this band. If you're one of those 100,000 people on Spotify who listen to it every month, then give us I'm actually genuinely curious. Check out the other bands we've talked about, but also let us know what it is that. And if you've got a different album than the other three they've got, they got 3 albums and an EP on top of this one. So if there's something in particular you think we should check out to have a bit more scope on the band, then let us know that as well. Let's get some feedback from the actual fans of this band, the main event of this episode. But I think that's it. We've gotten to the end of another one relatively quickly yet again. We're flying through these ones at the moment, which is pretty good. So again, as always, make sure you're following us. Our details are in the description of this episode. Whether you're watching or listening to it, just go through the notes and you'll find all the information. You can follow us across all of our social media platforms, all of them there. So please keep up to date, get involved in the poll, and check out all the extra content we do release in those platforms as well. If you're so kind, if you enjoy what we do and you want to give us a bit of help to do more, then check out our Patreon page as well. Just, Patreon, the Hard Rock Show, it's all there. And there's a few things, bits and pieces going on. You get some early access and some giveaways and shit. So just, check it out and have a look. If you can give us any help, that'd be greatly appreciated. And while we're talking about that sort of stuff, a wonderful thank you to our amazing sponsors in Squitting, Screen Printing, Alt, Cult, and Rockstar Finance. Their details, as well as ours, are in the description of this, whether you're watching or listening to it. So please find them and give them a follow as well to check out their content. Our next episode that's going to air release-wise, we've already filmed it, is the Torture 2021 episode, the double episode for that. That'll be a lot of fun. So we chose some ones for each other. It didn't go too badly. See, there was one that got fucking roundly canned, but there were some from the audience choices. Yeah, they put us through hell for some of those ones. So well played. That's why getting involved in the polling on social is important, because you get to sort of piss us off one year as well. After that Torture episode of 2021, we'll be doing a regular episode which will discuss the latest from Right After Midnight, Australian band, The Dead Daisies, and also WET, or WET, which is the European supergroup of sorts. So that's coming up in the next couple of episodes for everyone. But now it's time for everyone's favourite part of the week. There we go. Time for the giveaway. So, Tim, what have you got? There's some low-hanging fruit this week.
There's plenty of low-hanging fruit, but I'm gonna steer clear of that.
Okay.
And that is shitty parking.
Okay. You go. I want to hear more.
The lines are there for a reason.
Yep.
I'm not one of those people that's going to be fussy and say, look, you got to be right in the middle of the lines. I don't care.
Yep.
But you should be in between the lines at some point.
Yeah.
This is not hard. We've been doing this for a long time. As a society, we've all agreed it's 1 car per space.
Yeah.
Not 1 car per 1.2 spaces. and I get it. There is a little bit of I was going to say there's no shame in backing out and trying again, but there is a little bit of shame in that. But that's better than That's better than just leaving your car in the wrong spot.
Yes, definitely so. Wow. Yeah, I see that regularly, and it drives me fucking nuts because we drive a big fucking ute, twin cab ute that we drive, and if we can park that, a manual, by the way, and do it just fine, and if you can't handle a tiny fucking car, like the tiniest little fucking mini things, and you can't even park that, and we can park our rig.
Oh, you should drive my car.
Hey?
You should drive my car.
I used to get around in a 74 Toronto with a beat up gearbox and no clutch. So I think if you can park that fucking beast, you could park just anything. That was painful. Right? A lot of fun to drive.
Well, I went from a V8 Commodore to a little Hyundai.
That'll change it. You're thinking pretty quick.
Oh yeah.
But still, I've driven little cars. They're not hard to park. If you can't park the fucking little car, then Jesus, you got problems. Man. You got big problems. Well played to you. That's a good bin. I am going to take some of that low-hanging fruit, though. It's there to take. First off is we've seen it ad nauseum, to go back over the very start of talking about COVID and lockdown. Misleading headlines. The clickbait, misleading headlines, which are fucking disastrous and really do erode people's faith and confidence in getting things right and getting through this sort of stuff. There was the most recent example that I came across was there was a big fire at a vaccine facility in India. And everyone's going, oh my God, the fucking vaccine facility is on fire. Turns out it was at a new part of the complex that was being built, had no impact on production whatsoever, but that's not what the headline entails. And so I think
it's
right
barely
now,
even a news story.
Well, yeah, it's just, could you please just, make a headline that is actually relevant? Or if you're going to do a news story, make the first sentence the relevant and make it informative, not just, I want to drive as much traffic as I can. Make it actually so that, yes, there was a fire, but it doesn't impact, but vaccines won't be impacted kind of thing. Like, it's not hard to expand it by that little bit kind of thing. Just in this day and age, with everything going on at the moment, I think everyone's needing to have a bit more clarity with what's going on. I just really feel that to go the way that those are going with the misleading headlines, like the Herald Sun was fucking bonkers during lockdown in Melbourne. If you go down those paths, and you're actually just making it harder for everyone to get through it. Because I don't know about you, but watching the media do their thing here was fucking painful, and I saw firsthand the emotional impact on some people. Getting through it all. So be a good citizen, please, those in media. That and Scott Morrison walking around taking photos holding bombs. What the fuck, dude? Like, I don't need to see you holding a bomb and fucking looking big and tough, you moron. You probably drop it, break your toe, and then set the fucking thing off, dickhead. Although, you may not complain about that. That and the although if that meant Michael McCormack was in charge, my God, that's no improvement. But the Margaret Court getting the highest Australia Day award.
Couldn't find anybody else.
I think in the year that was 2020 with the fucking COVID-19 pandemic, you couldn't find anyone better to give the highest order in Australia to than a bigoted mole. Seriously. And it can't be for eternity. So the fucking shit Australia Day.
Well, is she part of Hillsong?
She's one of those Pentecostal fucking things, yeah.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, they're all mates. They'll look after each other.
The next in line was Guy Sebastian.
Yeah, possibly. Terrifying. And when politicians say get the sport out of politics or whatever, like when that whole circle kicks up,
yeah.
My response to you is this: we'll take sport out of politics when you take religion out of politics.
Oh, no, but even then, look. So let's for tennis. Like, I don't know. I feel like there's more successful Australian sports people.
Yeah, true. Weird. I'd
probably give it if you're gonna.
Hell, I'd give it to Aaron Finch at this stage for fucking putting up with the ways he's gone out during the Nick Bath series.
Like, I mean,
worst run a lot.
Like, I'd probably give it to Ricky Ponting.
Well, yeah. Tim Payne.
No, but if you look at Ponting's, the Australian cricket team when he was in charge.
Well, yeah.
Like, his team was unbeatable.
Yeah.
And it would have been the biggest sports team in the country.
Well, how about we just give it to Kathy Freeman?
There you go, man.
That's a better one.
We all remember where we were when we saw her run the 400.
Yep. So
we all remember that.
Yep. So that's a better choice. Or Yvonne Goolagong or whatever the fuck. There's heaps. Fuck. Anyway.
Stephen Bradbury.
Yes. that would be awesome to see, actually. That I would pay to see. That's a good way to close that
Bradbury
out.
pulls a Bradbury and wins Australia's highest one.
You know how people are failing upwards? That would be just fucking the epitome of, wouldn't it? Fuck me dead. That'd be great. I want to see that. If we get a politician to even put that forward, that'd be fucking brilliant for mine. I reckon that would be great. Bradbury getting the Australian of the Year award.
Bradbury
that I'll get down.
Someone's got to do it.
That writes itself, that shit, doesn't it? All right, well, let's finish up on a high note. Yeah. That was a good way to close it out, I reckon. So we'll wrap it up there. Thank you all so much for tuning in to our nonsense yet again. Make sure you're following us like I said before, and we'll see you all again very soon with much, much more. Big year ahead, I believe. Anyway, thanks again. We'll see you all again soon. Until then, I'm Andrew.
I'm Tim.
As always,
drink up.
Rock on.
To be honest, what I mostly do is I will start at season 1, episode 1 of The Simpsons.
Yep.
And then I go until I get bored, which is usually about season 15 or so. And then I fast forward. There's a few later episodes that I like. I watch them. And then I go back to season 1 and I just start all over again. And I've actually started seeing, because I got Disney Plus the day it came out in Australia, right?
Okay, yeah.
And even up until now, the entire time, The Simpsons has always been trending, like either 1 or 2.
Wow.
Like if a new season of The Mandalorian comes out, then The Simpsons will drop to number 2, and then after a couple of weeks, it'll go back to number 1.
Yeah.
And eventually, I finally saw the comment on someone shared it on a Simpsons meme group, and it was from Twitter.
Yeah.
And it was like, fuck it, why is this Simpsons always trending on Disney Plus? Are you guys just watching it 24/7 over and over again? It's just like, shit, they're onto us.